Hello.
Hello.
We are currently sat at a canal and we've just been told that they can fit Dayton on a boat. Dayton's first boat journey.
Yeah.
And we've got to go for a hole.
Yeah.
Called a tunnel.
It's a hole.
Who?
A canal? Hole? Tunnel?
You're right there, Day.
Yeah. Are you alright, Mum?
No. I'm off to fix it.
Can we fix it?
Yes, we can.
What are we? What build on this crew?
Frigates coming through the top of the tunnel here. 2 tons of plumbing at maximum. But of course, with a nice big boat like this, it can move about 30 tons or so of limestone. So there's a big scale of economy there for our Lord Wood once it's connected the canal through. Now you can see the build-ups on the walls of the tunnel here, and of course right across the top as well. This is known as calcite, this stuff. Now what happens is the water works its way down through the rocks above us, and it actually leaches out some of the minerals in the rocks. Those minerals end up being deposited on the walls and the ceiling of the tunnel here. It's very similar to the limescale build-up you get in your kettle or around your taps at home today.
Oh, I've got
Now
dripped
this
on
first
again.
open area we're coming across this morning, this is Cerebral Basin. And what you'll see here, we actually have 2 mine entrances. The Tipton mine is on our right hand side, and the flooded mine is on our left hand side. Flooded mine looking a little bit like a cave entrance there. That's actually a drift mine, where these miners would stay pretty close to the surface here, just taking out that limestone right on the surface level. Tipton mine, by contrast, has actually got a bricked up tunnel entrance there. Now that drops around about, or should I say that goes back into the ridge there, about 20 metres to join with a vertical shaft that drops right down below us as much as 30 metres. The basin here is absolutely gorgeous, lovely and quiet, and especially marvellous when that sun's shining. Of course, both of these basins used to actually be caverns, up until about 1815, where so much limestone had been removed that the roofs were becoming quite unstable. So the decision was taken to actually blow the roofs off both this cavern and the Cerebral cavern, opening them up to the light. Of course, you can only imagine how difficult it was navigating boats across this basin when there was no lighting here at all. Now we're making our way into the 1989 tunnel, but on the right, that is actually the main Dudley tunnel itself. We'll be popping back out there in a little while. But this tunnel we're moving into, constructed by the current trust in 1989 to give us a new access way into the ridge here. We also know this one as the Waffle Tunnel. Hopefully that is pretty self-evident. We've got a sprayed on layer of concrete here that's known as shotcrete. But what you'll notice as we move further in from the tunnel portal, we don't need this extra reinforcement as we move further into the rock. The rocks ahead of us now become so much more stable, they don't need any extra support.
And iron's production required iron ore, coal to fire the furnace, and as those deposits were exhausted, deep pits were dug as the miners followed the seams. As they went deeper, it became ever more difficult to raise the stone to the surface. The solution to this problem came in 1778, when the Earl of Dudley, who owned the mines, constructed a canal and tunnel into the hills to connect his mines to the Birmingham-Wolverhampton Canal and so to the rapidly expanding network of inland waterways. Above us, the surface, 80 feet below us, and now flooded, lie yet more man-made caverns. Today, the tramways are silent and the limestone boats are gone. But let us spare a thought for the Black Country miners who carved out these caverns 200 years ago. Danger was their constant companion, and not all returned alive to the surface.
Limestone was quarried here on Dudley Castle Hill for hundreds of years. It increased in mining activity, and at its peak, the Dudley mines produced over 100,000 tons of limestone a year. In 1849, addressing a meeting of scientists here in the Dudley mines, the eminent geologist Sir Roderick Murchison proclaimed that in no part of England geological features brought together in a small compass and in the environs of Dudley. Demonstrations of blasting carried out.
You might be thinking that that's actually the surface level up there, but there's actually a gorge that runs about another 80 to 100 feet to the true surface level. Now, our miners would have carved their way down through that gorge and then drifted their way in to the top level here, along this top gallery. Of course, at that stage, it would be a drift mine, and these guys would follow that top deposit into the ridge as much as half a mile ahead of us. And on the way down, they would leave these supporting pillars behind. Quite incredible, these things. They're 300 to 400 tonnes, each of these pillars. But what I do find absolutely amazing is how they managed to get 90-degree angles here from the supporting wall to the pillar, and equally right up the top here at the roof. Of course, 90-degree angles give us the maximum support to hold up many, many thousands of tonnes of rock above us. We can only see about 120 metres down there today due to landslides and rockfalls over the years. That cavern is no longer accessible. So it's looking a little bit worn over the years, but we're nonetheless still very proud of our association with Blue Peter. In the front here, we've got our Arthur. Arthur's actually doing a bit of shoveling. So what he'll be doing is picking up the loose limestone from the bottom of the cavern here and bringing it into the waiting boats. Now, Arthur will be doing that 6 days a week, probably 12 or 14 hours every day. And then on Sunday, he's lucky enough to get the day off so he can go to church. But of course, Arthur can't do that all on his own, so we've got a couple of pals over here by the wall. We know this pair as Ant and Dec. Now, you can see what they're doing is they're actually hitting an iron bar here, driving it into the wall with the sledgehammer. So every time that sledgehammer strikes the bar is rotated a little bit to stop it sticking in the rock. Eventually, these guys will actually drive a hole in there around about 2 feet deep, so they can push some gunpowder down into that hole. Now, of course, they're buying the cheapest gunpowder they can, these guys, because these miners do actually supply all their own tools and equipment. So the better price they can get on that gunpowder, the more money stays in their own pockets. But eventually, they'll be laying 5 or 6 of these charges along the wall here. And once they're happy that they've actually set enough of those charges, they'll put fuses in and then seal the fuse in with some clay. Next point of the story here is our foreman, Mr. Hurst himself. He comes down to check those charges, make sure they're all set properly. Now what he'll do is once he's happy, he'll clear all these miners out of the cavern. But there will be one left behind. Here he is. That's our little Billy. Now Billy's probably only 9 or 10 years old. So he's left down here in the dark all on his own. He's got a candle in his hand and he's going to light the fuse. Now the fuse obviously leads off to those charges that are laid in the wall. But the fuse is pretty cheap and it's a homemade fuse. So it's probably made out of old rope, maybe soaked in some lamp oil or some tar just to help it burn. But inevitably it will burn out at some stage before it gets to the charges in the wall. So it's our Billy's job to climb out from wherever he's taking cover and make sure that those fuses burn all the way to the wall. Of course, every time he comes out to relight the fuses, he's getting closer to that blast face. So it's a matter of timing for Billy to keep these fuses alight and then dive for cover just before the explosion goes off. Now you can imagine, once the explosion goes off, we're going to have shrapnel flying all over the place. We're going to have gunpowder smoke. We're going to have lime powder as well. So it really is a very hazardous environment for these miners. Now as we move back along the tunnel here, we've got another one of these truck construction shafts above us. This one is actually the quarry pit construction shaft, this one, and it's quite interesting with that calcite build-up on the walls of the shaft here. As we move on through the tunnel here, we have a collection of bottles up on the top of the wall here. Now these bottles actually commemorate the starting of the original Preservation Society. Each of these bottles has a message inside, and the story goes back to the early 1960s, where we had some amateur tunnel explorers down here. Now what you notice in this section of the tunnel, our echo is getting far more intense around us. And that echo is actually created by the cathedral arch here. Quite an amazing piece of brickwork this, considering that it was actually erected over an operational canal. Now this actually collapsed a long time ago, and that led to the decision in the early 80s to create 2 new tunnels to actually access the ridge here and give us a nice circular tour. But the lower workings underneath us actually subsided and caused that tunnel to collapse, and it was going to be far too dangerous and expensive to repair that tunnel. So that's what leads us to having 2 U-tunnels in 1984 and 1989. Now what you'll also notice down here, of course, we don't have any tow paths, so the horses can't be moving these boats through these tunnels. Now the original way our boatman would have done that would have been to use a barge pole, and they'd be using a barge pole just like what Ted's got down there. He's showing us that you poke that metal end into the brickwork and then you use the shaft to propel the boat on through the tunnel. But of course, that process of barging actually caused quite a bit of damage here to the brickwork. So that process was actually banned, and that leads us on to the process known as legging. Of course, the idea is that you've got your pair in the middle of the boat. They can communicate with each other, laying shoulder to shoulder in the middle of the boat. And what you're going to do is move one foot over the other and push yourself down the tunnel. There we go. Now, unfortunately, we do need a little bit more longer leg there for you to reach the wall, don't we, mate? But that's the idea. What these guys would do is try and keep the boat in the middle of the water so that you're not making any friction with the walls. There you go, give that a go, mate. Lovely job. There we go. So we're going to run out of brickwork here. Would you like to bring yourselves back into the boat? Thanks, guys. Let's have a round of applause for our leggers. Thanks for getting to the point where they're taking a full load of 30-odd tonnes through these tunnels. They would be expected to be able to leg nearly 2 miles in round about 3 to 4 hours. That's generally the optimum time to get through these tunnels. Now what you notice as we move across Cerebral Basin here, we actually have some bricked up tunnel entrances. Now these were actually manoeuvring holes rather than full-size tunnels. Nice bit of water working its way down today. Because we would have long wooden boats here being loaded from either side from these 2 mines. Now these manoeuvring holes would allow those boats to be shunted backwards and forwards to make sure that you've got a nice even load. Because the last thing you want to do is put too much load into the middle of the wooden boat and you can end up breaking it. The brickies actually have some holes in this brickwork. As you can see, they correspond on both sides of the boat here. You might think it's a bit of a silly idea, leaving holes in your brickwork, but these holes do actually have a couple of functions. Of course, when those original brickies were working in the tunnel here, they'd only really be able to get up to about the level of the boat. So they needed a way to reach the roof of the tunnel.
Are you getting wet?
Construction method, because the tunnel here, as we know, is 250 years old. To the fire weighs the limestone down to a powder, probably over a period of maybe 2 or 3 weeks.
And that is the end of the canal.
That was good. What did you think, Day?
Very, very, very good.
Didn't get wet, didn't you?
Yeah.
We all did, I think, didn't we?
We did.
And I did a cheeky trump.
Oh, yes, we heard. We did hear.
Yeah, he did.
Very loud.
But it's nice that they've got something that is accessible for wheelchairs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. He had to go on like a ramp up, and then the floor went down with him on it, didn't it?
Yeah.
So,
It's really good.
Yeah.
Would you do it again?
Yeah.
yeah. Don't forget to subscribe.
To Life on Wheels of the Smiths.